Welcome to the Milk Bottle eCommerce Show, brought to you by Milk Bottle Labs, one of the world's top-rated accredited Shopify experts. The Irish-based Milk Bottle Labs team upgrade, migrate, manage and advise some of the highest-performing Shopify stores worldwide. Founder Keith Matthews interviews merchants, developers, fellow agency owners and Shopify folk to share as many Shopify tips and tricks as possible. If you're planning on upgrading to Shopify 2.0 or migrating over to Shopify, reach out. Milk Bottle will help. Now, over to Keith.
Hey folks, welcome to episode 105 of the Milk Bottle eCommerce Show. Today I'm delighted to talk to a friend of mine, Alex Weston. Alex is appearing on the podcast for the second time, and this time he actually represents SparkLayer, which is a wonderful B2B platform which I've heard a lot of people talk about over the last couple of years, and it streamlines B2B operations using a feature-rich platform which reduces manual labor, paperwork, and adds heaps of automation and also heaps of integrations, which I am really, really interested in hearing about. Alex, how are you?
Yeah, doing well, thanks, Keith. Yeah, good to be back for the second time. It's been a little while since the last one that I did, so that's good.
We were talking there for a second about Kerr Whittaker. Runs after work event. Kerr has actually been on the podcast 3 times.
Oh, wow. There you go.
So I'm not suggesting that you're going to be on it a third time.
Yeah.
But, you know.
Somehow I didn't even take the award for the person that's been on this podcast the most that lives in Bath, which is strange. So
exactly. So you have a lot in common. 2 years back.
Yeah, that's true.
The last time we spoke, it was Brightpearl you were working with.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So I spent a few years at Brightpearl. And before that I was at a marketing platform called Bronto. So I'm going through the whole marketing and e-commerce mix as I make my way through various different technologies in the e-commerce space.
So Alex, you've watched Shopify grow then over the last 10 years, haven't you?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I think I remember the team that started out selling Shopify in the UK, and they were just in a tiny WeWork in London somewhere. So it's kind of crazy to have seen how much it's grown. And of course, you had some of the bigger players in the e-commerce space when I first started out sort of 10 years ago or whenever it was. But it's definitely been super exciting being part of that journey with some of the different platforms that have integrated with Shopify.
Yeah, the Shopify has grown up, hasn't it? You know, I suppose in your early days of Brightpearl as well, it was probably limited in terms of the connectivity that you would have had. But
yeah, I mean,
amazing the difference and the change, even in the last 2 years with the new additions that they're launching every quarter.
For sure. I mean, you'll remember that Shopify was always seen as that kind of side hustle, quick and dirty websites, and it's just not that same thing anymore, is it? It's crazy how much it's grown. So yeah,
it's funny you say that, because it was actually marketed for many, many years as the kind of platform, the side hustle platform, but also for crafters and people making things with their hands. I remember some of the old YouTube adverts they had, but look, it's grown up and it's great, and it's great to have you here. I'm just told you there off camera that the team in Milk Bottle just recently finished a B2B store using I would call it the new Shopify B2B platform. It was updated being updated now all of the time, but it went through a major upgrade probably a year ago, maybe 18 months ago.
Yep.
I suppose, first and foremost, what is SparkLayer?
Yep, good question. Well, part of the clue is in the name, actually. So SparkLayer literally is a layer that goes on top of your website and adds B2B functionality effectively. So whatever Shopify plan you're on, we also work with BigCommerce and a couple of other e-commerce platforms as well. If you're at the point where you want to add B2B functionality onto that same website, i.e. you've got wholesale customers that want to buy in bulk, they want to pay a different price, maybe they want to pay by invoice rather than paying on a credit card or something like that, SparkLayer adds that functionality to those e-commerce platforms and allows you to do that in a really accessible way. Yeah, so that's what SparkLayer does in a nutshell. It's literally just bringing B2B functionality to existing e-commerce platforms.
I suppose it'll suit people that are probably not selling B2B but want to move into B2B.
Could be, yeah. Yeah, we kind of have both, actually. We've got a bucket of customers that are direct consumer customers that are moving into a B2B world. So they'll have a really strong presence from a direct consumer point of view, such that they've naturally kind of drummed up demand for wholesale, who want to stock their products. So that's definitely one cohort of customers. On the other side, though, we do have some quite legacy B2B brands or B2B manufacturers, distributors, those kind of things, who have historically not sold online at all, and therefore spinning up a Shopify or BigCommerce or Wix or something like that website is much easier for them, and therefore they can layer SparkLayer on top of that in order to bring it the wholesale functionality that they want to replicate from what their sales teams have been doing. So it really is like direct to consumer brands and then legacy manufacturers, distributors, but they're all kind of coming online with this kind of need for wholesale.
So is it a takeover app to the point that if a customer is on a legacy platform and they have all of the data in the cloud, would SparkLayer then become once it's integrated and once it's set up, the back end is set up, would SparkLayer become then the default source of truth for that particular customer?
So we're never the source of truth. So we the basic bit of data that we usually take from like an ERP system or something like that would be B2B specific pricing. Everything else we kind of take from the e-commerce platform. So we would always leave the source of truth as the ERP or the e-commerce platform or wherever they're kind of handling that order data. Where we become useful and where it becomes much more efficient to kind of manage a piece in SparkLayer is that B2B specific pricing. That's what our engine is kind of managing behind the scenes there. So that's the only bit that we ever kind of take out and manage elsewhere in SparkLayer, but everything else kind of sticks with wherever the customer already manages it. So
the customer is still managing their website as normal.
As normal. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, from a website point of view, it's literally like three code snippets that get dropped onto your theme files from a Shopify perspective, for example. But the rest of the website is managed as normal. You've got a normal Shopify theme. You're still managing like inventory, orders, all of your product information is all still managed within the e-commerce platform. So, and that's the beauty of it, is it's very simple to install, but it's doing a very complex thing. So it's kind of funny in that regard that like B2B can be as complex as you want it to be, or sometimes as complex as you don't want it to be. Actually, it's like it's one of those types of things. But SparkLayer has got a way of kind of making that as simple as possible for everybody.
So the biggest challenge that we've always had with legacy businesses, let's say, second generation family businesses where wholesale pricing and deals were done on a piece of paper, and then they end up 20 years into business and they actually don't have a gold, silver or bronze pricing system. Everybody's on a different price. Is that possible in SparkLayer to facilitate that kind of client?
Yeah, absolutely. We've got some customers who've got like 3,000-4,000 customer specific price lists that they're managing within SparkLayer. So definitely possible. Should it be done that way is a different question, right? And I think generally, like, we actually see quite a lot of customers that are coming to us or prospects that come to SparkLayer who take this moment where they're coming and bringing this thing online for the first time, or perhaps this is their second iteration of the website, to kind of take stock and go, okay, this is how it has been managed for the last 50, 60 years or whatever. Does it mean that that's the way we should continue doing it? Probably not really. And so it's a good time to consolidate and try and review some of those pricing structures to say, if we're ever going to put in a bronze, silver, gold pricing structure, as you said, now is probably a pretty good time to do it while we're replatforming and building this new website. So, but yeah, to answer your question in plain terms, yeah, absolutely. We've got customers that do both.
As part of your onboarding process then, do you find that you get dragged into advising customers on what other people are doing in terms of how they're treating their customers or how they're pricing?
Yeah, for sure. And especially because, with all of these types of platforms where you've got the ability to change some things and configure it in certain different ways, but then you've also got restrictions like, you'll be familiar with Shopify's world where there are always the limits that you get to with these e-commerce platforms. And unfortunately, that does mean sometimes that the way that someone operates their B2B business today just will not work with the way that it works from an e-commerce point of view, or an e-commerce platform perspective. And so there is often a game of kind of compromise that needs to happen with some of these customers who are doing that kind of bigger piece of migrating an existing process onto something like Shopify. We actually work really closely with the B2B e-commerce association. So they have a lot of good advice around, what to do in these types of scenarios and how to ensure that you kind of keep the most of the good bits that you're doing and the things that are differentiators for you, but remove a bit of the stuff that's actually holding you back. Even though it feels like a differentiator, it's not really. It's a restriction for you. But it can be hard to kind of tell which one's which. So we work really closely with them to help advise customers. So it's not just us with our own SparkLayer tinted glasses telling them what to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, on the website for SparkLayer, it mentions automation and the reduction of paperwork. So, explain how it does that.
Yep. So the biggest time saver is that most of the customers that we'll be working with will be manually inputting B2B orders in some way today. So whether they're doing that directly into an e-commerce platform or an ERP, most of the time, customers that we speak to will be today, they will be receiving calls or they'll be getting emails from their customers, and then they'll manually have to go into a system, find all the products, find the customer's price list, reduce all the products, make sure it's all okay, probably make a few different mistakes along the way, raise an invoice, all of these different steps just to get a B2B order out of the door. The kind of automation and the easy side of this is that with SparkLayer's interface, a customer can log on to what feels like a normal website to them. So it's just like shopping online for anything. They'll go on, be able to find one of their previous orders, create a new cart based off of that previous orders. So it's populated with all the stuff that they know that they need to replenish their store with, and then be able to just go and process that like a normal website order, basically. And so you save this whole faff of it's automatically pulling in the price list. So it's showing you as a customer the right price, depending on which customer you are. And then it's saving this whole hoo-ha of a sales rep or a customer service rep or something like that, having to manually input that order, which is just so time consuming and unnecessary in this day and age. So that's where the automation and time saving piece comes in. And some of our customers have saved so much time just by the sheer fact that their customers can self-serve and put those orders through themselves.
And in our experience, when a customer can self-serve, they order more often and very often order more.
Totally. Yeah.
Is that your experience?
Yeah, absolutely. We've seen customers who have seen a 33% increase in average order value. I think one of our customers, Snurk, they just went live a few months ago. Not only did they see their customers ordering more, but actually a bunch of their unengaged customers suddenly came back again. So they, just improving that process had a massive win for them in a lot of different ways.
For you guys as a software company, is there a boarding project required for every customer? Like you're selling a service which is kind of a game changer, which when it's live and it works, it's really, really simple. But of course, it's a complex tool behind the scenes. Is there a project involved to get it live for customers, or is it plug and play?
So it kind of depends on the complexity, really. So if I think of like a simple setup where it truly is just a couple of price lists that they upload into SparkLayer's pricing engine, a couple of different customer groups, and a very basic, Shopify theme that they've got set up already, you could be up and running with that in a couple of days, no problem at all. Where the complexity comes in is if you've got more kind of ERP integration, so you're pulling your B2B specific pricing out of your ERP into SparkLayer, you've got some kind of changes that you need to make in your e-commerce platform to understand a little bit of that data as well. So those can take a little bit longer, and that probably is then more of like the project type thing that you're describing. So we actually have a team here that will help with that onboarding process from our point of view, and they've seen all manner of different types of projects come through the door, from, like I said, the most basic people who have been up and running in the same day almost, versus the ones that have kind of taken a little bit longer.
But it's not like a SAP integration where you could have a 9-month plan.
No, not even close.
Sorry to mention SAP. That was just
Yeah, exactly. No, not one of those at all.
So the data goes in, it connects to your online infrastructure.
Yeah.
In terms of, a major warehouse connected to printing off invoices, printing packing slips, and the ultimate invoice that goes back to the customer or the receipt. Are you integrating into all of those elements as well at the end of the sales process?
Yeah, so often what we'll do is it won't really be necessary for us to integrate into those systems, because we will pass the order over to the e-commerce platform. The accounting system and the warehouse system and everything like that will just pick it up from the e-commerce platform. The only bit that then does kind of come back to SparkLayer, sort of via the e-commerce platform as well, is once that invoice has been produced, people want to see it on their account. So, we can display that on the account as well. But yeah, for the most part, like we're gathering all of that order information with the right payment information, with the right price, and passing that through to the e-commerce platform for that to deal with. Very
good. And so the payment goes through the e-commerce platform.
Oftentimes, yeah. It sort of depends, really. If you're paying on account terms, so you've got an invoice to be created and things like that, oftentimes customers will have that integrated between Shopify and Xero to generate an invoice when a B2B order comes through, for example. So that's quite a common use case, but it isn't as direct SparkLayer integration.
Okay. And one of the terms that I've heard a lot in the kind of B2B e-commerce space is a blended solution. So we have, for example, we would have B2C customers that could be doing, heading for 20, 30, 40 million. And some of them are entering the B2B space as a result of the success. They're retailing such a high volume of the consumer good that the product producer is coming to them saying, would you distribute the product? Is it a good idea to blend it or keep it completely separate in your view?
It kind of depends. And there's always such a classic answer, isn't it? It kind of depends.
It's a hard question to answer.
It is. Blended or hybrid, as sometimes it's referred to, can be really useful. The benefit, which is key, is that you've got speed of getting started, basically. So a lot of our customers use a hybrid store. They get the benefit of the fact that they've done all of the design work on the website. They know it converts really well. The look and feel of the website is something that they care about quite a lot. So layering on your own B2B piece on that same website and being able to make use of all of that same design and everything like that can be a really, really useful thing and something that a lot of brands see works really well. There is this piece though that B2B customers in general, and this isn't totally true, but in general, B2B customers care slightly less about the look and feel of the website than, say, a direct consumer or B2C customer does. So that piece is you can kind of take it or leave it, whether you care about the branding piece or not so much from a B2B perspective. But there is still a benefit in having one website to manage, one set of products, one set of inventory, one set of integrations, all of that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of time to be saved in that. Where I see it doesn't work so well, and this is where a lot of customers get into having a separate store, is if they have very different products that they're selling to B2B customers versus B2C, or the way in which they sell those products is very different. So to give you an example, we spoke to a customer the other day who sells files, as in files for bits of paper. I can't even describe what I mean, for stationery, basically.
Stationery, yeah.
Yeah. And so they would receive their files in 3 different colors in one box. And they, on the B2C website, sell them as 3 different colors. And that's easy when you're selling individual because you've got to split a pack anyway. Yeah. Whereas when you sell that to B2B customers, you don't really want to split a pack. And therefore, it doesn't really make sense. So now you're selling it as a box of 3 also to your B2B customers. So it doesn't really work to kind of combine both because you've got basically, even though it's the same product, it's actually a different type of product and you're selling it in a different way. And so therefore, it kind of makes more sense to have a separate store in those kind of instances.
The biggest kicker for me is if you're running a 5 or 10 million B2C store and your average order value is obviously a key metric, and your average order value is, $99 per order and you're trying to get it up to 120. If you bring your B2B business in there, it completely skews your average order value. Now you can take those out from when you're reporting, but I always say to people, sometimes it has actually worked to spin up, as you say, not a store that necessarily doesn't have to have the same amount of development cost to, a plain Jane store.
Totally. That absolutely makes sense. The other piece is also that kind of comes into that a little bit is that if you run a lot of promotions for B2C customers that you don't really want your B2B customers to see, then obviously they're going to be navigating through that B2C website in order to get access to the wholesale price. So, and likewise, it goes the other way around as well, that you want to try and be able to speak to your wholesale customers in a slightly different way sometimes than your B2C ones. But if that's on the same website, then it can kind of muddy the message a little bit. So there's just some softer things to consider as well as the actual technical implications.
Yeah, we've actually seen cases where the B2C store has very little data because the consumer knows the product.
Yes.
But B2B store has to have a legal download PDF or, if it's in the health sector, for example, multiple other pieces of information before they'll purchase. So that's a good point, actually.
Yeah, totally.
What's your favorite feature of the platform, Alex?
There's so many that we're releasing, but the sales agent function is really cool. So a sales rep can log in, basically pick a customer and then produce an order on behalf of that customer in the same website, which I think has probably just been one of the most outstanding features of the platform. And largely because, again, it comes back to some customers are never going to change the way that they order. You can set up the nicest, shiniest website in the entire earth, but you've still got some customer who will go, no, I've always emailed my order in and that's exactly what I'm going to continue doing. Well, this sales rep piece just makes it so easy for them to be able to log in, masquerade as that customer, find the right price, put that order through without having to go and do all the stuff that I said before to manually put an order through. So that piece has been really cool as well. And then just as a, I know you asked for one, but I'm going to give you two anyway.
Give me more.
The CSV upload to bulk add items to the cart is such an underrated feature of any B2B website. So a customer could basically get all of the SKUs that they want, put the quantities next to those SKUs, upload this spreadsheet, and it will just bulk add all the items to the cart, which is just such a time saver. And a lot of customers want to do that, where they have a spreadsheet and kind of tinker with the quantities and stuff.
So Alex, you've given them a template, a SparkLayer template, have you, that they download and put the SKUs into it, or does the system just rate the SKUs?
Yeah, it's just easier than that. It's no template. It's just SKU and quantity. Upload that and it'll understand.
Interesting. In terms of the future, like, I know people like headlines, but I have read many headlines from about 2023 through 2024, and I'm sure they're going to be written again, where B2B to many people is kind of the next frontier in e-commerce.
Yep.
So, like, a lot of people haven't touched it for the complexities and difficulties that you've just described. So are you seeing that momentum, that it definitely is the new frontier?
100%. I mean, it's got to be like one of the fastest growing parts of e-commerce in general. I mean, at least from what I'm seeing at SparkLayer, we're seeing a lot of growth as a business ourselves, which is obviously a good sign. But B2B in general, I think, is just having its time when it comes to e-commerce. And like we said, it's kind of driven by two different areas. You've got those direct-to-consumer brands that are going B2B, and therefore, that's kind of driving a lot of the noise. And then you've got this B2B brands that are coming online for the first time, or maybe even, just having a second iteration of their website. But you've got this kind of convergence of a B2C style experience with B2B functions, and those two things kind of matching together, which is really exciting. So it's definitely having a really good moment at the minute. I think there's some stat flying around, which I never know is actually true or not, but by 2027, the B2B e-commerce market is going to be worth like 20 trillion or something like that, which is can't even, I'm sure Elon Musk or someone like that can comprehend that kind of money, but I can't.
The logic that your B2B customer is any different to your B2C customer, to me in many ways, is a little bit mad, because it's a human that is checking out on both sides. And if most people are getting used to a Shopify checkout, even though they don't realize that it's Shopify because they don't understand the platform, there's no reason why customers, whether they be B2B customers or B2C customers, shouldn't have the same customer experience, which is exactly what you're attempting to deliver.
It's exactly that, that these are the same people. B2B buyers are the same people that shop for trainers online for themselves.
Exactly.
So why should it be different?
Yeah, that's what I always say. In terms of the company, do you have anything exciting planned? Like, you've been growing, where are you? Are you UK based or Europe based? Just maybe there before we leave.
We're all based in the UK, bar a couple of the support team based in Lithuania. Got a dev based in Lithuania as well, and another support guy based in Colombia. So we've got some good time zone coverage there. But we've grown massively. I think when I joined, 20 months ago or something like that, we were 9 people, and now we're 26. So yeah, we've had some really good growth over the last couple of years, which has been great. But interestingly, like, the majority of our customers are in the US. So we've got a ton of customers in the States. The UK is pretty strong for us as well. Australia, New Zealand, also really strong for us, even though the time zones are a complete ball ache to try and figure out from here, but we still managed to make it work. And then we've got quite a few customers that are based in Europe as well. But yeah, we just hit 2,000 customers, which is great. So and in terms of what's next for us, I think we'll continue to release some really good features. We've got some great stuff that's getting released in the next couple of weeks. Got new platforms that we're integrating with as well. So that's super exciting. And there's plenty to get stuck into with all of that.
Alex, there's no end to it, because if you integrate with another 100 platforms, there'll be another 100 platforms next year. Like, it is exciting from that point of view. Once you gain momentum, it's just, there's an endless amount of...
Yeah, a lot to run at.
Yeah, there's an endless amount of relationships you could be building with different software companies. So it's great. That's great. Listen, we'll leave the links in the show notes, and it's been great talking to you. I've heard a lot about it, and I'll continue to watch you guys in the future. So thanks for your time.
Cheers, Keith.
Thanks for listening. All of our episodes are available on Apple, Spotify, iTunes, and Google Podcasts. If you're an e-commerce professional with an exciting story to tell, reach out to the team on hello@milkbottlelabs.com. Until the next time, take care.